Hey guys, what's up? I hope you're having a great day. Welcome back to the new story of r/relationship advice. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon for new future videos. Let's get started. Cheers.
Stories in today's video. 1. My boyfriend cheated and showed me the pictures of the sexting and Des 2. My wife cheated on me, so I waited until she moved on to cheat with her. It was my first girlfriend. Let's call her Jezebel, or Jez for short. And it was the fall of my sophomore year in college. We were introduced by her roommate Jen, who was dating my best friend Bob. The very first time I met Jez, I happened to have a bunch of scabs on my legs. I played softball almost every night during the summer, and I slid enough that my legs got pretty cut up because I wore shorts when I played. Within 20 minutes of meeting this girl, she asked me if she could pick at the scabs, which were healing by that point. I was a little grossed out, but also mystified that a girl was showing me any attention at all. I didn't let her, but we talked for a long while that day about other things. Fast forward a week or so, and I was coming off of a particularly horrific weekend in which a drunken situation at a party totally threw my world into relative chaos. I had a small list of personal problems in college, and this bad weekend had put it in my head that I needed to get drunk and just walk into the ocean. Bob found my plan out, and redirected me to bring the beers to Jen's house, and we'd binge Star Wars back in the days when there were only 3 of them. So we sat in his girlfriend's house and drank beers and watched the Star Wars saga. Jen came home in time to see the Death Star blow up. By the time Luke was on his way to Dagobah, Jez came home, and plopped down next to me and started drinking with us. By the time the Ewoks were trying to cook the heroes of the New Republic, Jen and Bob had retired to Jen's room. Jez told me she wanted me to sleep there because I had been drinking, and that it was okay because she had bunk beds. I agreed. We both ended up in the bottom bunk anyway, and that was my first time, because she pretty much just instantly jumped me when I got into bed with her. We dated for 3 months, and roughly 2 of them were spent yelling at each other. We fought a lot, over dumb things. But I always went back because I was too dumb to know any better and had never had success winning over a woman before. I didn't want to walk away from the first girl who ever showed actual interest in me. Every fight was inevitably followed by makeup s*x anyway, so I just kept stumbling along behind her. So Christmas comes, and Jen's throwing a huge party at the house. Bob invites a buddy of his from high school named Ray, whom I had met about a year previously when Bob hosted a 4-man poker game at his parents' house. I'm working that afternoon, so I get to the party super late. I greet everyone warmly, and Jez comes bouncing over to me and gives me a quick hug before wandering off to get more booze. I greet Ray, who gives me an awkward handshake, and busies himself with a gin and tonic. I think nothing of it. And the party eventually winds down. I technically lived on campus, but I spent every night at Jez and Jen's place, so I was of a mind to spend the night there again, but Jez seemed irritated. I finally asked her if she wanted me to go back to my apartment on campus, but she said she wanted me to stay, so I did. Just before New Year's, she went home for winter break, just after she told me that she missed her period and thought she might be pregnant, even though she was on the pill. It is not 100% effective, you guys, no matter what she says. So she goes home for winter break, and never returned my calls, which grew more and more frantic without knowing what her status was. I called her on our 4-month anniversary, first-time boyfriends are so dumb, to say happy anniversary, so are you pregnant, and she informed me that we had broken up just after Christmas, despite the fact that we had had s*x a couple of times after that. And then informed me that no, she had gotten her monthlies, like, a day after she told me she might be preggers. So there I was, disappointed that I no longer had a girlfriend and yet overjoyed that I no longer had the girlfriend, and that I wasn't trapped by a child with her. So what was so strange about that? Next time I saw Bob after New Year's, he told me that Ray had confessed to him after the party that Jez had invited him to sleep over, and that it was okay, because she had bunk beds, and that her plan was to jump on him just like she had jumped on me 3 months prior, even though she knew I was coming to the party just a few hours later and was spending the night as usual. That's why Ray was awkward around me. So the next poker night a few months later, I casually mentioned to Ray that he has superpowers. He looks at me weird, so I say, well, you can dodge bullets. He gets a super serious look on his face. I say to him, remember when my girlfriend tried to get you to sleep with her at the Christmas party? She's *seeking lunatic. You sure dodged a bullet that night, and started cracking up. That broke the tension between Ray and I. That was a fun game of poker played that night. My ex and I started dating in June 2015. I was 19 going to be 20 and he was 22. I met him at a very low point in my life and for a long time I thought he was a godsend and he had saved me. We were together for 3 years and 4 months and we broke up October 2018. There are several parts to this story, so bear with me. In the summer of 2017, I cheated on him. I went to a party, got too drunk and made out with a dude on the couch. That's as far as it went, and later I went home. I need no one to tell me it was a low and sh*tty thing to do. I felt awful about it. The ride home was sickening and I had to stop to vomit because how guilty and nasty I felt. I told him as soon as I arrived home. I expected the worst, as I should have. He was mad and upset. I told him everything he needed to know. He calmed down and told me he didn't want to talk about it anymore and wanted to go to bed. When we woke up the next morning, he told me it would be okay and we could get through it. I told him he didn't have to do that. I felt terrible. He said it would take some time for him to get over and earn my trust back, which I totally understood. Things went back to the way they were. Fast forward to January 2018. He was going on a 3-week trip to Colorado for work. I was allowed to go but decided to stay back since we recently had gotten a new cat and I was worried about leaving him on his own. It was a long 3 weeks and the day came to pick him up from the airport. He didn't hug me or kiss me. He just threw his suitcases into the car. At the time, I thought maybe it was jet lag or he was tired. When we arrived home, he unpacked and went to bed. I didn't think about it again until months later. We broke up for the first time around the end of February, beginning of March. My relationship with him became controlling and manipulating, but not in an aggressive way. He played the victim anytime something would happen and everything was always my fault. He didn't drink and didn't smoke for personal reasons. He hated alcohol, parties and anything he didn't like, to say the least. In a completely respectful way, he was a square. Nothing wrong with that. I, on the other, was an old soul, free-spirited. I enjoyed a GL*SS of wine in the evening and occasionally smoked weed. When I wasn't working, I was gaming, reading, or at the gym. I had a curfew and I barely spent time with the one girlfriend that I had. He didn't like her and she did not enjoy his company. There was a clash in politics and they simply didn't get along. So in February I told him that we were growing into very different people. We didn't enjoy the same things and felt like roommates most of the time. I didn't want to resent him as I got older for settling and getting too comfortable too soon. It was a heartbreaking conversation, but we both understood. We separated and I slept on the couch until my new apartment would be available. I went out with friends, met new people and worked. I enjoyed life. Nearing the time to move into my new apartment, I panicked. I'd never lived on my own before. I was terrified. In April, I was relieved when he messaged me and asked if we could meet up and talk. He wanted to get back together and that he was sorry for how he treated me. I called my landlord and told her I wasn't taking the apartment and that I understood I wasn't getting the deposit back. I lied and told myself that this is what I wanted and that things would be okay. One night, I got a text from his ex-girlfriend while he was playing hockey. She informed me that he had been messaging her and was even so kind to send me screenshots asking her for S*** and BJS. I lost it. I called him and left him voicemails and text messages. I couldn't believe what I saw. I had a complete mental breakdown and was placed in the hospital under a 72-hour watch. He admitted to everything and I asked him if there was anything else I needed to know. I would ask him this many times later on, in which he would always reply, "No babe, that's it." She called me the following morning and told me that not only was he texting her but he had an email that I knew nothing about. I was able to log into it after a couple tries and found picture after picture, video after video, dating back a year and a half of him seeking girls in our bed, our house and in our car. On top of that, I found email threads from girls and guys he was having conversations with. I scrolled until I could no longer see from the tears in my eyes. He was not there with me at the time. He had went home after I was admitted and said he would see me in the morning. I don't know how many messages I sent or how many voicemails I left. He called me on his way to the hospital. I told him I would talk to him when he got there. We talked and cried about everything when he arrived. He told me he had unresolved issues from his childhood that led him to do such things. He told me he didn't know why he did those things and that he was sorry. I did the only thing I thought I could. I forgave him and told him we'd get through it. I again asked him if there was anything else that I needed to know. Again he replied with no. After being under a 72-hour watch, I was discharged and taken to a rehabilitation mental evaluation clinic where I felt violated, alone and tortured for 4 days. I had to be given drugs to sleep because I could not close my eyes without losing my sh*t. We called each other and spoke every day. Those were some of the longest days. It was terrifying. After spending what felt like an eternity in there, the psychiatrist deemed me able to go home. When he came to pick me up, he had bought me flowers and a card. Even bought me a pack of cigarettes so I could have one when I got out. We had a long talk the car ride home and we told each other we could still work this out. We just had to be honest with each other. We always had each other's *s swords to everything, we just never felt the need to invade each other's privacy like that. We lasted until August when he stopped being transparent and changed all his *s swords. He stated, "We didn't need to do that anymore. I thought this was sketchy but didn't ask anything of it." Then I got a call from one of his friends telling me that not only had he cheated on his Colorado trip but also he would call this friend every time he cheated to tell him how good it was. He informed that this started happening a few months after I cheated. When I asked him about it, he finally came clean and I knew why he had acted so weird when he got off the plane and came home. I gave it 6 months after that. I couldn't get over the pictures and videos I had seen and the messages I had read. I felt I deserved it because I had been unfaithful, but I came clean right after it happened. I didn't hide it in emails and didn't tell my ex or my friend. It made me sick to my stomach. I ended it in October. In the end, we were not bad people, we just made bad decisions. It was a mutual breakup. We grew into very different people the 3 years we were together. We both still talk sometimes to catch up and we both are very happy in life. I was dating this woman exclusively and were in a committed relationship. She had started into this relationship with a bit of trepidation. She had told me that anyone she dates lasts 3 weeks and she's on to the next one because the guys manage to do something within the time to have them go their separate ways. This was validated by her friends who didn't want to get too close to me because they knew I'd be gone soon. She was a divorced mum with a bubbly personality and easily fun to be around. I survived the initial 3-week period and her friends warmed up to me. We were with each other every minute we could get. Weekends were all about going to see friends of our play bars and events around town, drinking, dancing, joking, teasing, obnoxiously making out, and going home to sleep. She had finally got to a point of accepting me as a loyal partner who didn't screw up by talking to other women. After nearly 2 years together, she was coming to a point in her life where she had to make a decision to find a new job. She had been unemployed for a while and her house was getting to the point of being a huge liability. She had spoken to a lifelong friend of hers that said that there are plenty of jobs in her field in Phoenix, Arizona. It was a big move from Buffalo, New York, but she wanted change. On Easter of that year she left and moved to Phoenix. My soft heart said I'll be there in November because I loved her. We never had a crossed moment and always talked. A few months later I went down to visit and see if I'd like the new city. We immediately went back into the honeymoon phase and my short vacation was just about over. I met her co-workers and thought them to be cool, that they were going to look out for her until I came back permanently. The end of October, beginning of November rolls around and I'm driving cross-country to live with her and her 2 teenage daughters. Everything is great. It's the first time we ever cohabited together. We had to adjust to each other's habits. I was a hardcore gamer and my game of choice was Madden. I played religiously, and that month together was a learning curve. In the time I was with her I didn't know she was on 2 types of meds, one Chantix, spelling, to quit smoking and the other an antidepressant. She was not taking them like she was supposed to. Well, she began self-medicating with alcohol and cigarettes. I discovered her budgeting skills were horrendous. We lived in a place she picked out that was too much just for her salary and that didn't include gas or groceries. I pleaded for her to go grocery shopping with me and to bring the kids. Well, that was one of the potential arguments we had. Another was spending money in Starbucks as opposed to making it at home. $20 a day at a coffee shop for 3 people followed by lunch and dinner outside was not being economical. We lived in a huge house. I was doing the cooking and groceries as well as looking for a new job. This house made it that we could sit in opposite sides of the house without seeing each other. The major argument we had was over a bottle of wine. I had bought a huge bottle to cook with. I was frantically looking for it. I'm known to be forgetful, but I knew where I had placed it. I asked her in the nicest and loving tone if she had seen it. She proceeded to go to the garbage can and asked if it was what was in the trash. I flipped out. One of the reasons I flipped out is because I came from an alcoholic household where this type of behavior was a constant even when under lock and key. She also grew up in an alcoholic family where her mum was a bad one, which led to more than half of the things that went on in her life. This event that occurred between us caused me to shut down. When I shut down, I can't talk because it's going to be vicious. I need my cool down period. But neither one of us was budging. It took nearly 2 weeks before we were on speaking terms. In the next month it was my birthday. We were getting back to being a couple. That night her daughters had an event and we went. I didn't want to upset her when all I wanted to do was spend my day dancing and having a drink. Well, by the time the kids' event was over and we dropped them home, the kids wanted to go with us. It was 11 p.m. I'm getting upset because I wanted my one drink before midnight with her. We got to the bar at 11:55 p.m. She started saying how tired she was, etc. We had that drink and a few dances, then she bumps in some female she knows. They converse for an hour without even introducing me. When that ended, I was, "Who's that?" She proceeded to tell me that it was the girlfriend of the maintenance guy's son. I asked her why didn't she introduce me. She said she didn't think of it. Well, we went home. We didn't have birthday *X, which was shocking. Instead, I went to sleep with a practical stranger. New Year's comes and I'm missing my kids. So I flew to NY to surprise them. Before leaving, I gave her money to pay the back rent and the current rent due. She was shocked, but I told her it needed to be done. Somewhere between time zones and technology, I sent everyone New Year's greetings from NY. Supposedly her daughters got them, but she didn't and felt slighted. I finally got back a week after New Year's and the house is cold. I was being shunned. Every sense of my being was being overloaded by, "Hey, there's something wrong." She was working late every night because of year-end audits. I had dinner ready waiting for her. I sat down at the table talking to her, asking her how her day was. She would talk, but she'd say she was tired and head to bed. One night we were sleeping and I awoke. I had this extreme sense of dread. The only thing missing was the suspenseful music playing. I headed downstairs into the kitchen where her handbag was. We always had an open door policy of whatever you need, it's there, just let me know what you needed, so if it needs to be replaced it gets done. During the move down to Oz, she had her phones turned off because she couldn't afford it. I lent her an extra phone I had from my divorce. I went right to that phone like I was guided there. I opened it up and scrolled the texts. There I saw it after going through some random text. "You love me? I love you too." I shut the phone door out of *SSMENT. What the hell did I just read? Maybe it was a joke. Nope. I proceeded to read every text before and after that single text message to get the gist of what was going on. The text was from the maintenance guy she was working with. This was taking place since November. I had changed my life to follow her cross-country, and I get presented with a knife in my back and heart that gets twisted the more it's being placed into me. The following day I had asked her if there was anything going on between us. She just said no. We just need some time apart, living apart. I just shook my head and said okay. I never did or said anything. Instead, I presented her with the same question once again the next day. No one was home in the morning. Instead, I just calmly looked in her eyes and said, "Is there anyone or anything that needs to be said? We are adults. I'm a big boy. If there is anything, please say it." She blank-eyed stared me and said no. I returned back to her, "Wow. Really? Nothing?" She was given the option to come clean and said once again no. I told her in one short tone, "You are so full of *T. She stared at me in bewilderment. I told her I looked at the phone and read the text and she had 2 times to come clean. She finally responded back with a yes and then said it was all because of me. That I didn't have a job, which was true, but I had a few grand saved up, yet she didn't have a car, she used mine. She had no phone, she used mine. She couldn't pay bills, yet I paid them. I then proceeded to tell her that if I'm so bad, to do it with me. I took my car and phone and said, "You can go to work, but not in my car," and she could call a taxi or a friend, but not with my phone. I presented her with this question. If I'm such a stranger living here, then those 2 months of rent I gave you before I left to go NY, consider me paid up on my half of the rent until the end of January. I eventually moved out by January. I got a place of my own. I struggled, but I kept my dignity even when she had failed to pay bills and the TV and electric was shut off, and I lived like that in the dark. My unintentional revenge was we decided to talk over drinks. We ended up naked and drunk and had S**x even though she was with this new guy. I marked her up real bad for a long time. I knew what I was doing. I had the intention of every time you look at your woman remember that I did that. Also that I could do that anytime that I wanted. That was mine before it was yours. But I knew that if it came back I'd toss it away. It's just a toy now. I know it sounds bad but when anyone does something that's life-changing for another it's a big deal. But when you treat it like anything less than gold then and only then everything that is associated with it is worthless including the person. Since 2010 I've been single and dated so many women in those years. I've met some remarkable women that make me want to be a better person but also met women who I wish I could get my time back. The lesson I've learned from all this is trust my gut. My gut.